Welcome everyone to our Variety Hour, our April monthly call. We are delighted to be welcoming four fantastic speakers, covering a range of different technologies, different environments and regions, and different announcements. And so the first speaker I'm going to throw to is Anna, who's joining us from GSMA. And their team has just launched a new report about the Nature Tech Nexus and talking about bridging biodiversity in business. So we've asked her to come along and share some insights and lessons learned from the report, because we know in our community this challenge, there is growing interest from the corporate and the business sector in conservation and conservation tech, and we're hearing a lot of questions and interest and curiosity about how to build those bridges. So hopefully this might answer some of those questions. So Anna, I'm going to throw it over to you. Take it away.
Amazing, thank you. Let me share my screen. Can everyone see? Hopefully, yes. Great. Okay. So hi everyone. I am joining from the GSMA Climate Tech Programme. And as Stephanie mentioned, we've just launched a new report that we wanted to share within the community. In case you haven't come across us before, the GSMA is the Association for the Mobile Industry. The Mobile for Development team that I am part of is placed at the intersection of the mobile ecosystem and international development. Specifically, I am from the Climate Tech Programme, and we are funded by UK and Swedish aid. We focus on a few different topics, so everything from plastics and circular economy, natural resource management and biodiversity, as well as climate finance. Research is a core pillar of our work, but we also do a lot around kind of local market engagement and activation, and particularly advocacy. So we are always looking for opportunities for public-private partnerships and how we can facilitate and broker them. It's also worth noting that we have innovation funds. So we provide grants to early-stage startups and support them in their journey to scale. At the minute, we have 2 climate-focused innovation funds that are currently live, and through them we're supporting 24 startups across Africa and Asia. But for now, let's jump into the research. We launched this new report just a few weeks ago, and so it's titled The Nature Tech Nexus, Bridging Biodiversity in Business. Given that we only have a few minutes, I can't go into the full scope of the reports, but I just wanted to offer a bird's eye view of the themes that we touched on and give a few insights from one particular theme and focus, which is the mobile industry, because we're going to be exploring this further in a webinar coming up in mid-May. So first key theme that we look at is the nature tech market. So how mobile and digital solutions are being applied in low and middle income countries, what that looks like in terms of the private sector, investment, and how that is driving innovation. We were focused particularly on monitoring, reporting, and evaluation, monitoring, reporting, verification activities, as well as AI, because that is those are the tech that seems to be garnering the most investment and interest at this stage. The second key theme that we were looking at was more about startups. So given that we have our innovation funds, we're always interested in how the startup ecosystem can be supported. And from our analysis, we saw that since 2020, there's been a boom in startups that are specifically trying to target biodiversity-related issues. Given that the vast majority of them are very early stage, they are predominantly reliant on grant funding. And even when we had our last innovation fund round, approximately 1 in 10 applicants were specifically focused on biodiversity. Our interest then was really on understanding what business models are showing the most promise for startups in helping them navigate to a more sustainable footing. So in the report, we present various use cases and revenue streams that are offering the most tangible and practical promise for startups in helping them navigate in their journey to scale. And finally, as I mentioned, the mobile sector is obviously a key area of interest for us, and we wanted to understand better the role of the private sector in how it can be investing and supporting and driving change to in tackling biodiversity loss, but specifically what the mobile industry is doing and what the opportunities are for the mobile sector going forward. And that's what I'll just focus on and give you a very brief view on from the report. So we talked with mobile operators across Africa and Asia to really understand what they're doing and where they see the barriers and the opportunities for further work within biodiversity. At this stage, there is action happening, but it's very much driven by the new nature-related reporting requirements, particularly EU CSRD, but also against the backdrop of the Global Biodiversity Framework. The mobile operators told us that biodiversity is becoming an issue of interest. It's rising up the agenda internally, but as it stands, it's not quite at the same level of climate or net zero commitments, and it is still a topic of interest, but not quite there, and something that everyone is just trying to really get to grips with at this stage. The vast majority are just scoping. So there's a lot of materiality assessments happening, biodiversity strategy papers being written, and it's worth noting actually that within the GSMA there is a task force that has been brought together, and it currently has 36 mobile operators that are working together to understand the sector's impacts on biodiversity, as well as the strategy for the sector in the coming years. For us, we really wanted to understand what initiatives looked like within the mobile industry and those kind of projects or initiatives that were specifically addressing biodiversity needs. We found a lot of examples that fell predominantly under mobile operators' foundations or their CSR arms. So, for example, a lot of really strong projects addressing reforestation or supporting endangered species. But what was really interesting was slowly we're seeing more and more examples where mobile operators are thinking about the triple bottom line. So they're thinking about people, profit, and planet as they are tackling and trying to better get to grips with biodiversity and nature-related action. Because models that are more commercially driven will naturally have better buy-in internally and will then consequently have a longer lifespan and can be scaled and replicated. This is what we wanted to focus on. In the report, we present a few different case studies and examples. I only have time to show one today, but we had a very interesting example from Indonesia. The mobile operator Indosat Rudu Hutchison worked with the GSMA last year, up until last year, as well as an Indonesian local government and with funding from German International Development Support. And they were piloting the application of IoT solutions to help shrimp farmers in North Kalimantan in Indonesia. And while this project initially started out as a more philanthropic engagement, actually it became very successful on lots of different fronts. So one, it was successful in actually reducing the destruction of mangroves through their digital technology solutions. It improved the livelihoods of local communities. But importantly for Indosat Rudu Hutchison, it actually helped them to prove the use case of their IoT solutions. And because of this project's credibility, it helped them to have really robust evidence that they could present to other businesses for the use of their IoT and how it could be applied for impact. So because of this pilot project and because of the success of it, Indosat Rudu Hutchison are now looking at scaling it up into other locations in Indonesia. So through this, they're hoping to bolster national conservation efforts, build disaster resilience, and also help drive the development of community-based tourism, while also supporting the mobile operators' specific business needs. There are many more examples I'd love to share, but there isn't time. We are actually diving into this in greater depth in a webinar in mid-May, so it'll be a LinkedIn Live. And we've got Huawei, Vodafone, and Indosat Ooredoo Hutchison all talking about the innovations that they have created, how they came about, the partnerships that they've relied on, both in terms of NGOs, startups, and government. And really what their perspectives are in how the mobile industry can be using technology, infrastructure, expertise, and investment to drive action and address biodiversity loss. I will stop there. But just to say, if you're interested in getting in touch, either relates to research or partnerships or anything in between, then please do reach out. And in the meantime, I'll just pop details of the webinar I mentioned in the chat.
Perfect. I was just about to ask you if you would do that because I think I'm curious to hear more. That sounds really interesting. I've two questions. One, who is the dream? What if someone's to reach out? Who is your dream person to reach out? Who would you love to hear from?
We would love to hear from lots of people. We would love to hear from NGOs working in this space with expertise that they'd like to bring to a mobile operator. We'd like to hear from startups that have been navigating this topic and are also interested in partnering. And government. We are always interested in the broader ecosystem. So if that fits any of the profiles here, then please do get in touch.
I think we hit all three profiles. And you mentioned that my follow-up question was you mentioned startup funding. You're talking startup, the sort of funding you're offering is for-profit startups, right? Rather than non-for-profit?
Yes, for profit. So they need to be generating revenue, but it does also include some social enterprises as well. We don't have any live open innovation fund rounds. We closed last year, but yeah, we're supporting a range of different startups at this stage.
Cool, awesome. I'm going to email you separately. That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Anna. That was a really interesting and great taste of the report and case studies. And you're about to drop in the link to the follow-up event where you're going in more detail. So we'll have that in the chat if anyone wants to hear more. And grab Anna either in the chat or over email if you want to chat to her more. Now I'm going to hand and I can. Ooh, wait, microphone just changed? Anyway, whatever. Bruna, you're going, I can see quite a few people as they're checking in mentioning bioacoustics in their, as their interest area. So I can only assume they're here to hear more from you and Robin probably a little bit, but But Bruna, I'd love to hear more about how you're using bioacoustics in your work. So do you want to take it away?
So, hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bruna Teixeira. I'm doing my PhD in animal biology at Universidade Federal de Pernambuco, here in Brazil. So, before talking about my research, I would like to introduce you to the laboratory that I am part of, and the Ecology, Behavior, and Conservation Laboratory, which is coordinated by Professor Bruna Bezerra. Our laboratory carries out a lot of research in the areas of ecology, behavior, and conservation, but especially in the area of bioacoustics, we have a great team with projects on manatees, monkeys, turtles, parrots, and acoustic landscape ecology. But back to my research, it's about using of acoustic index as an indicator of anthropogenic pressure in Atlantic forest fragment in Nordeste in Brazil. So anthropogenic noise is a result of population growth and urbanization, has a significant impact on the natural soundscape, affecting animals, communication, and behavior. Ecoacoustics and acoustic index have emerged as promising tools for understanding the relationship between anthropogenic pressure and biodiversity in ecosystems such as Atlantic forest. So our methodology is the study collected acoustic data in 2 fragments of the Atlantic forest in northwest Brazil for 6 months and divided between rainy and dry periods for 48 hours, the records. 2 acoustic index were used is the Normalized Difference Soundscape Index, NDSI, which assess the proportion and anthropogenic sounds versus nature sounds, and the Acoustic Complex Index, ACI, which measure the diversity and the intensity of biotic sounds and spectrogram I generate to visualize the propagation and off-road noise in the fragments of time. We performed the Krishna test, and when significant, we used the Downs post-hoc test. So the results, the NDSI show a clean relationship with anthropogenic pressures, increasing as it moving away from roads and urban areas, indicating less human interference in more distant location. And the ACI not show a linear pattern of change, suggesting adaptations of the species to local acoustic condition. In some cases, the highest ACI values were observed at point filter away from the roads. Analysis of the spectrogram confirmed to a notable decrease in the presence of anthropogenic noise as one moves away from the searches, highlighting the importance of distance in mitigating the impact of road noise on biodiversity in 2 areas. So, the result points to the effectiveness of acoustic index as tools for evaluating anthropogenic pressure and its effect on biodiversity. Conservation strategies, such as creating buffer zones around the roads and urban areas, can help reduce the impact of noise on local species. Integrating acoustic considerations into urban planning is essential for developing more sustainable and wildlife-friendly environments. And these findings highlight the importance of multidisciplinary approaches that combine knowledge of ecology, acoustic and environment planning to promote harmonious coexistence between humans and wildlife. So our next steps, they describe the acoustic landscape of 2 areas. For this, we would like to use in machine learning and with artificial intelligence. However, we have some difficulties because we need better computers for analyzing these data, and we need the collaboration to using the machine learning. And we also intend to understand what compensatory mechanism exists for animals that live in these noisy areas, especially primates. But we also have some difficulties because the small number of records than we have, and a larger number of trips to the field. So I want to say thank you. This is my email. Feel free to write to me, and we can talk more about the landscape and ecology. Thanks so much for this opportunity.
Oh, thank you so much, Bruna. I know, I have a quick question. Have you tried any machine learning yet, or is it just an area you're interested in exploring?
No, not yet.
Okay.
We want going to Cornell University in September for can using the machine learning.
Awesome. Okay, you've got some suggestions in the chat already from Carly and Vanessa, and Frank's got a question for you. So I'm going to pop you into the chat to reply to them and get some support there. I know we have lots of ML folk and acoustic folk here who might be able to support. And also, I'll suggest we're planning on running AI for Conservation office hours at some point now that we're through a little busy phase. So keep an eye out for that sort of programming coming for us. It might be able to help matchmake and support you with that sort of AI advice. Right. Thank you so much, Bruna. We'll move on to Krishna now, who I think sounds like your sound is working. Yeah.
Yes, very much.
Fantastic. Krishna gave a fantastic talk I saw at the end of last year about his work building AI and data systems for human wildlife conflict. So I invited him along today to share a little bit about this work, and he's kindly joined us. So Krishna, please take it away. And remember, I see 26 slides. Oh my goodness, 7 minutes.
No.
Okay.
Just don't we get overwhelmed by that. Can you see the slides, please?
Yes, we can. Do you want to make it a full screen?
Okay. No, just a minute. Okay, so don't get overwhelmed with the number of slides. These are basically screenshots to let the viewer see how the portal looks like and how they are functional and how they're used by the people. Okay, so as Stephanie mentioned, this was presented at Global Wildlife Program annual conference, and I had tried to give another twist to it, trying to understand how India has helped this cause of illegal wildlife trade and mitigation of human wildlife conflict through use of IT solutions. So it's for ITR today. I'm going to come up with the first one. A bit of what has happened last early part of this 2000. There were a lot of grievances which were being aired and voiced by the communities about how they can reach out to the government functionaries to address their concerns. So it was completely in a non-digital way, and the communities and then the people who were affected by this conflict, they could not actually reach out to the communities so that their grievance could be addressed. So the government of India started its own, portal system where they have, opened up this facility to all the people. In fact, they can register their complaint. They can, give suggestions on this particular aspect that we are discussing today. So this is a screenshot. Oh, sorry, quite fast. This was a screenshot you can see at the back here, this particular one. It allows the user to log in. It's very user-friendly. You see, I have presented one aspect about how communities can reach out to the Wildlife Division in the Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change. So this gentleman is from a coastal town and area. He's talking about the olive turtles and how they are threatened. So he's reaching out to the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change to take action. So he's not actually being affected, but he's reaching out to the ministry to take action on conservation of olive turtles. Another one, quickly. This is another act which was actually was introduced to empower the citizens to ask questions. So this is only about the people getting to know about what are the act, what are the rules about wildlife conservation. So they can access through this channel, which is also now online now. It was in 2013, though the act was enunciated in 2005, but it went online in 2013. So this is another act of empowering the communities and also making the governments accountable to the concerns of the people in the country. Okay, and in 2022, not very long ago, there was a national helpline which was set up by the government to allow the communities to report cases of illegal wildlife trade and human wildlife conflict and other things. And likewise, not just going to percolate down to the state, they have also set up their, the state level helplines. So this is the snapshot of the portal. Now I'll illustrate something which I presented in the Global Wildlife Annual Conference, and this was more about the project that I worked with till recently till March. This is a GEF-funded project, and we tried to analyze few things in terms of how this GEF-funded or GEF funds could be utilized to actually help the communities who are living in a very remote areas, especially in the Himalayan areas, and they are very remote. Most of the time they are snowbound, they are poor in electricity, poor internet connection. People were actually being threatened by this conflict situations with the wildlife and stuff like that. So we started with a simple exercise about how to actually see the data which was all scattered and then registers and things like that. And this project started in terms of developing an MIS system and using the IT solution, simple IT solution. It's not very complicated. Most of us are using this, and we set up this database. For 20-year database, we made it into a centralized digital repository, which was primarily to gather the trends. And it was very important to know because there was no such tool to actually realize what exactly are the conflict points for human-wildlife conflict or illegal trade in wildlife. So those were the data which were actually utilized to figure out what the areas where the action needs to be taken. So this was action oriented, as well as actually having to the forest department officials to actually report and take action on time. Now I'll tell you the design of this MIS. It's on 3 key modules: human-wildlife conflict, wildlife crime, and incident reporting. And it is at the administrative level, various administrative levels. There are 3 levels. I will not get into details, but I'll show you the snapshot. Then the incident report system through a mobile app, and the prediction model, which I will not touch upon in this particular talk, but I'll straight away come to this slide. So you see all the data in the physical form, the registers, non-digital database that was entered into wildlife MIS, and this was used for data modeling and data analysis, and coming up with the data analysis, the report basically. Now this database center is also linked to a mobile app. So this was a simple thing that we tried in a very remote areas in Uttarakhand. This is a northwestern state in India. And everything was done in a very conventional way, non-digital way. I guess I showed you there is through non-digital to digital, and then data modeling and data predictions. A simple technology, net framework, SQL server was used. This is the dashboard I want to talk to you about. If you see the dash, I hope it is visible. Do I need to read this out? Stephanie, can it be read by the audience? Or can I just read quickly?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So I'll show you, these are the administrative, administrative units. They have this data organized into following tabs: human wildlife conflict, wildlife death, human wildlife conflict, incident reports, compensation, budget, miscellaneous. Okay, so we had this data that was for one aspect that is being displayed over here is human life damage by death, human life damage by injury, and the cattle damage. So you can see this is the most of the death, of course, sorry, is caused by leopard, and the human life that, and especially this damage to the human life by injury, they are primarily by the bear and other species. So this gives you a snapshot of how the data was actually presented. And the second part is about how, in the case of human death injury, the government can provide ex gratia relief, the compensation. And this is another screenshot of that particular feature of the MIS, which I was explaining. The communities can fill up the information, as you can see here. The government will take action. The result is over here. You can see this: pending, partial pending, and now paid. So this is tracked and also communicated to the user. This is in Hindi, of course, but I can read out for you. This particular section says that a compensation has been approved. This one says compensation has not been approved. It's simple, and it is conveyed digitally to all the users, especially the one who has complained. Next one. Now, this is a reporting system which has been established, based for, especially for the forest department officials and the staff, to understand their own territories in terms of the administrative units, their ranges. All the data are fed in this particular format. I don't want to get into details. You can see all the attributes are listed over here: range, latitude, longitude, complaint date, incident date. The information can be sorted, then it can be downloaded in the form of report. Okay, this is another tool which was given for the different forest officials at different levels, administrative units. You can see this. This is by human life damage death. The person would be filling up all this information. This is in a particular format. You can see that. I don't need to read, but this is a very simple format for the communities or affected person to report this. Okay. This was the MIS and the computer, and the other one was linking it with a mobile app. And mobile app is in fact being used very these days. Most of the people are using it, especially the smartphones. And this was a handy tool which we developed and linked with the MIS. So this main feature is to basically have the officials use this app to address the grievance, to take action within with using the mobile app. And it was very handy because most of the people are using this in terms of their applicability, their functionality. It's user friendly in both in terms of Android and iOS version. So it's mostly the people who wanted that it has to be linked with the mobile app. So it was basically the demand was driven by the communities. So there are various other aspects that I want to skip right now. But after we developed it in Uttarakhand, now another state forest, another state which was part of the project, that also showed interest in this particular aspect, and they introduced it in their own state. So it's being replicated. This is another interface. You can see this. This is from the mobile app. The sign up dashboard of the user, the incident form. It's very user friendly. You can see this one. It can also allow the person to upload documents. It can track it. The officials can take action accordingly. And data syncing features also there. This is a login for the forest department officials. It's all explanatory. I don't need to read this out. It's quite clear that the forest department were actually dealing with a huge amount of information on physical form and registers. Now they have a handy tool that they can use effortlessly, and they've been trained to do that. Very briefly, I could tell you that this was an exercise to actually bring the historical data into an MIS, which can be easily organized, and in fact it can be analyzed and further used for implementation purposes. It is very important in terms of incident management. Officials can take action very quickly, other than what we have described before in terms of not being a remote area, people not able to reach in the strictest sense of the word. They cannot reach in that sense, physical sense, but now the action can be taken within the state itself and the district, and in a much easy format, I would say. And then if you see, the system has been actually within the project itself, other states have also replicated. So this was very quickly. This is about how to use this, can access this mobile app. These are the features, can be downloaded. Well, the challenges are also there, but not much. But since India is on the digital revolution, it's I would say that it is now overcoming this initial challenges that we had. Of course, the area is still remote, inaccessible, but development is still happening. So I hope that this will certainly be a better mode for the communities to use and actually report incidents, and in turn toward the incident, they can also get some ex gratia relief. So future perspective is very technology driven. You are all knowledgeable over here more than me. Perhaps you know that IT solution has to be it should allow for technology upgradation, and that's most important part of this. And I don't think I want to read all this. Thank you so much, Stephanie. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's such an awesome project, and you have so many incredible lessons learned and such valuable experience. We really appreciated you coming today and sprinting through all of that information. I think it's going to be one that we'll have to go back and watch the recording to ingest all of the information. But I have questions. I'm going to save them for after hours. Thank you so much, Krishna. If you've got questions for Krishna, drop them in the chat, and I'm going to hand over to Henry now, and then we'll hand to Robin. And we might finish close to on time, but we'll see. Henry, you take it away. Krishna, do you want to stop sharing screen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will share my screen.
Your quiz might have to be half length today.
And as well. Okay, I'm going to whiz through it. We don't want to miss the quiz, guys. Come on. Okay. So everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
It is the first page.
Yes, it is on.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So everyone, we are now into our slightly over half-time segment, and I hope you've enjoyed the show so far. We wanted to start our intermission by running you through a couple of, one short advert from the WILDLABS team. So I'm going to hand it over to our community and commons specialist, Alex, who's going to tell us about community groups on the platform. Take it away, Alex.
Thank you, Henry. Like you said, I'm Alex. I'm the Community and Communications Associate Specialist at WILDLABS. You may have seen a post from me last week, or probably two posts actually, where we are starting to launch new groups and taking suggestions for new groups on WILDLABS that people are interested in opening up. So if you are interested in opening a new group or want to know what it takes to start a new group, shoot me a message either on here on Zoom or on WILDLABS. and I'll get you connected on what the next steps are in terms of learning about starting new groups. And in a similar vein, we're also opening up a call for volunteer group managers for some of our existing groups. So it's a great opportunity to get more involved in the conservation tech community, give back to the community, be involved in hearing what people are up to, and it's really great leadership experience. And you get really cool perks like feeding into Wild Labs, like feature development and whatnot. So if you're interested in that, also shoot me a message and I'll be dropping, oh, it looks like Esther already dropped one of the links into the chat that has some more detailed instructions on what those next steps are. And I'll pass it back over to you, Henry.
Thank you very much, Alex. And yeah, lightning quick as always from Esther there. Oh, sorry, Steph, go ahead.
I just want to say, very disappointed that no one wanted to make an announcement, but we will continue doing it until someone wants to. We'll keep going.
Exactly. So we didn't receive any announcements from anyone this time, but that's okay. I'm sure everyone was just really busy listening to our fascinating speakers so far. But yeah, just remember that for future variety hours, if there is anything you'd like to announce to the community, then you can share it with us, and this will be your time to share it. So yeah, please keep that in mind for future calls. And Carly is announcing that she's got a new tattoo. There you go. Awesome. We have one announcement. Okay. Things we're running out of time, but we cannot skip the quiz. So we're now going to start our traditional variety hour quiz. So if you've not done this before, every week we like to break things up by asking you 5 questions on a given topic. And in the past, we've had topics on drones and general conservation tech, but this week we thought we'd open it up a bit. So the topic for this week is, drum roll please, animal group names. Oh, it's a classic round. Animal group names is always fun. And yeah, so if you're not aware, English is a very strange language. We all know this. And for those that don't know, in English, we assign a specific name to a group of animals, and it doesn't always make sense. So a classic example is you'd call a group of crows a murder of crows, for example, for some reason. But then on the other hand, you'd call a group of butterflies a kaleidoscope of butterflies, which makes a little bit more sense. So for this week's quiz, I'll be showing you 5 animals, and you have to tell me what the group name for that animal is. It's a multiple choice, and you can write your answers down in the chat, and we'll also be showing the correct answers as we move through. But yeah, also keep a note of your score as well. So I hope that all sounds clear.
Okay, we've got some chaos happening in the chat. We're going to have some German and French ones included as well. So let's carry on. But fantastic quiz topic, Henry. Killing it.
Please mark in the chat the French responses, and if someone can speak German, please also mark in the chat. There's the noise, and here we go. Number 1, group of owls is called, answers in the chat. Oh, sorry, it is multiple choice. Torrent, a squadron of owls, a tombola of owls, or is it a parliament of owls? I thought we'd start with an easy one.
We got a lot of comments applauding the noise. Parliament.
So current at the start, parliament. That is correct. Parliament is the correct answer.
No such word in German, apparently.
And Adrian, please provide the French answer in the chat. It probably is just parliament because it was a stolen word. Question number 2. A group of hedgehogs is called A, a tumble, B, a prickle of hedgehogs, C, a nibble of hedgehogs, or D, a waddle of hedgehogs.
Please let it be tumble, prickle.
You've got prickle. Dan hopes it's tumble. Frank,
tumble. These all seem fake. Prickle, waddle, pickle, nibble.
I'm going to give you the answer.
German is very boring and has no word for this. Prickle.
Okay, adorable is correct. I'm going to give you the answer in this case. This one does make sense. It is a prickle of hedgehogs because, of course, they're very prickly. Never held a hedgehog, you'd know. Question number 3. A group of sharks is called a horde of sharks, a dart of sharks, a whip of sharks, or a shiver of sharks.
Ooh.
Horde.
Schul in German. Horde. Shiver. Dart. Shiver. Whip. They're going too fast. Shiver is crazy. Horde.
Alex has contributed. Shiver is crazy. Amazing.
Translation is bench.
A bench of sharks. Okay, I'm going to give you guys the answer. This is my favorite one. Is of course a shiver of sharks. Looking pretty cold down there. Alex is amazed. Number 4, a group of jellyfish. It's called A pulse, B, a waft, C, a smack,
Quaffle.
D, a skid of jellyfish.
Jake says a quaffle.
Jake says a quaffle of jellyfish. That is
A
not one of
mush.
the options. Mush
Pulse.
is also not an option. Pulse,
Pulse,
is a
smack.
yes.
Pulse.
Pulse.
Skid. Pulse because they're undulating. Skid because it's funny. Smack. Pulse. Waft. Skid. Pulse. Smack. No, this is very split.
We've heard.
Whoa.
Okay, I'm glad we found a hard one. We've heard everything, so I'm going to give you the answer. Is a smack of jellyfish.
Is it because it sounds like it smacks? No, that's bad.
I'm imagining someone maybe just like slapped jellyfish or something. It's not pleasant, but that's the answer. Sorry, guys. And question number 5. I think there's someone that might know this in the chat.
We're playing to the audience, Henry.
Group of lemurs is called a conspiracy of lemurs, a session of lemurs, a spring of lemurs, or finally an estimate of lemurs.
Carly's yelling in the chat. Conspiracy, conspiracy, conspiracy. I feel like everyone's saying that because Carly yelled it first. Conspiracy.
Please ignore Carly's answer. It is,
Con.
Okay, I will give you the answer. I'll confirm it to be, yes, it's a conspiracy. I mean, come on, look at this guy. He's plotting something. It's the most conspiring lemur that's ever been seen. Okay, and with that, please feel free to put down your scores in the chat. Give yourselves a pat on the back with whatever score you got. You tried, and that's what really matters. And I have an exciting announcement as well. So for the next quiz in May, we decided that we're going to open up topics and ideas to our amazing community. So if you have an idea for a short quiz you want to run in Variety Hour, you can maybe use it as an opportunity to present your work or your interests, then please send me a message and we'll make sure that you have this time to share. So without further ado, I'll hand back over to Steph to take us through the rest of the call. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. You got a lot of applause for that topic. I think that is our best quiz today. Well done. Yep. Okay. Right. Robin. We're not that far behind. Well, we're kind of on time depending on how long your talk is. So look, we're going to have a flexible end date, end time. Oh, you're talking about acoustics. Amazing. Robin, you have been a long-term community member and have been in Variety Hours and Tech Tutors and virtual meetups for many years, talking in after hours about the work you're doing. So I cannot believe it's taken us this long to have you actually featured as a speaker. Though I will note we tried to get you last year. You were just too busy for us. So we are so excited to have you come and talk about actually your work in full. So please take it away.
Thanks for the invitation, Steph. And I think even this time is not enough for the stuff I do, but I'll try to be quick. So I won't surprise anyone. So this is our biggest topic that we have and that we try to tackle. It's our biodiversity crisis, but probably you have not seen this guy. So this is the ugly elephant in the room, and that we don't only have a biodiversity crisis, but we also have a biodiversity knowledge crisis. So our established methods will be not good enough to tackle that, what we are doing right now, because most of them are not scalable, the old traditional ways of counting animals or species. And the big ugly truth is that in the future, we will not have enough wildlife biologists that can tell this species apart. So we have a big loss of knowledge on that side. And truth to be told, we are getting old. Also, I am getting old. So this is the same pullover, and this is young Robin. This was basically analog biodiversity. So we were capturing insects with nets, and we were looking through glasses, and this was old school biodiversity studies. And not so long ago, that was my bachelor thesis in Bolivia. So the only things that we used for detecting this bird species was like just a little knife and some pair of binoculars. So at that time, there was no ML or no AI helping us doing that work. So then I moved on to Austria, to the place where I still live. And I worked with alpine ibex. Also, this alpine ibex had to be counted. And we used this old beauty. This is one of the first digital wildlife camera traps in Austria. See that large 2 GB storage there. That was amazing. And we tried to capture as many pictures as we could from these ibex and established basically along their grooves on their horns, whether they were the same or there was a different ibex. And we did capture mark recapture with this old school camera traps, but going through all that pictures by hand. So I thought there's no more tedious work for me, but I was wrong. The next project I did was working with European roe deer on the side, and we captured quite a lot of roe deer and followed their tracks. And also we captured a lot of time-lapse footage. Altogether 23,000 days of time-lapse. So at that time, there was no mega detector. There was no other way to go through that. So we sat there for years and watched every video of this timeless videos and punched down basically how many animals there are, when they come out and what they do. So you see that I was just born too early for the development of this beautiful wildlife research world. Now I'm living here and working here in this flooded forest just between Vienna and Bratislava, so where the Carpathians and the Alps are meeting. And this is where we do our projects now. So why do we need new tools now? There's a lot of stuff that we have to tackle, a lot of tools that came out now that made our life so much easier. And I'm so thankful for all the guys that are listening and talking today that open source their hardware, open source their software, so that we can actually now tackle these large stuff. And a lot of that is community driven. So without all you guys, we couldn't do that monitoring as fast as we do it right now. So, but are we ready for these new tools? Are we really ready? So first we have to build them. Sometimes we're happy and sometimes someone else is building that for us. So GroupGets is building our audiomorph or our hydromorph, but sometimes, this is Carl, by the way, a trusty friend that helps building all that stuff in my cellar. And also Phil Atkin, some guys also from the key that open source or that publish their detectors and everything that we can just rebuild and try to build this on our own to have it cheap and available for the monitoring. So then we go out with all that stuff. This is all LoRaWAN work that you also know that I love and hate. With Frank, we talked earlier about epic failures also of projects, also what is not working. And on the lower left, you see nice projects that we built for schools and kids to explore our natural surroundings here. And with lots of sensors that are sending data into that little hut there on the left, all transmitting via LoRaWAN. And we wanted also to track our animals in the forest via LoRaWAN, but then we figured out what's the absolute maximum that it can do. And if you have a really moist forest, dense moist forest, the signal is not getting through. So all our animals were running without any sensors. We just had to figure out this is the limit, we can't do anymore. So we now have to wait for the stars. So to get LoRaWAN via satellite, probably then we will try again. Another thing that we did was boreal camera trapping, also with a colleague of mine that is also in the talk, Frederik Sachser. This is one of his projects. And when we climb up the tree trunks, we do a little 3D scan of the hollows, so we can measure that afterwards. That's also some little gimmick that helps us being more effective in the field work and trying stuff out for free. Another thing that we do is we monitor invasive plant species. So we drive by with little GoPros and film the vegetation flying by. And then in that little square, you see an evil tree of heavens that is coming from Asia, but it's not belonging to Austria. And we try to find them and eradicate them and try to get them out of that landscape. But what we are really wanting to talk about today is bioacoustics. And all of you know that it's a big booming topic. Everyone goes crazy about bioacoustics. And we just started with that a couple of years ago, basically, just with the onset, like I started just a couple of years with that, with the onset of the audiomorph, that made it possible to just bring these recorders into the field and do a lot of work with them. So in the beginning, it all seemed so simple. We just put out like one of these sensors, one of these audio recorders, a little bird is singing, you do an analysis, and you know that bird species there. Yeah, everyone is happy, everything is solved. But after a while, you get a lot of species, communities, a lot of species that are there. But then you start figuring out, okay, some of the species are harder to find. Then we did this little cute little guy. It's a tree. It's not a tree dormouse. That's miss of the BBC. It's actually a forest dormouse that we rediscovered, basically training a tiny machine learning model. And you can hear, probably you can hear it. Can you hear it? Can you? Okay. It sounds like underwater sounds, but basically it's just a little dormouse in the forest. And this is slowed down 8 times so that you can hear actually how much information is in there. And one of your office hours actually helped me a lot to develop this machine learning program for that. So Dan was there, helped me a lot, and Stefan Karl, and that made my day, and we could establish that. Another thing was hydromorph. Putting everything underwater was really cool to learn about that. And we have this little ugly fish on the left. In German, it's called the dog fish. It was rediscovered after a lot of years in Austria in a little pond right behind my house, basically. And now we put some hydrophones down there and listened to that fish. And we recorded the first voices of that fish ever recorded. And it's lots of fun to play around with little projects like that. When you go into bioacoustics, we said getting the species that are out there is quite easy nowadays. What makes it harder and what makes it important for us is to go one step ahead. We have to find out whether this species is also reproducing. How many birds are there, how many individuals are there, and whether they're reproducing or not. This is what basically our government wants to know, especially our nature conservation agencies want to know. And one example is that is an old species, and some of these calls are just the regular calls of that species, and the red ones are the begging calls of the young. So when you record the begging songs of the young, you know there is reproduction, and this is really important because we have to state that, we have to record that to see whether our measurements are working. Another example is the capercaillie, like a crazy little bird, a big bird here in the Austrian forest. And we combined videos and audiomorph. The audiomorph is up here, and you can see basically the song. You can't hear it right now, but he has a little jump, and you can see where the jump is done. And we try to figure out how many of these birds are in the forest. So we know they are capercaillie, but we have to find out how many there are. And they have a specific song where they have parts of the song that is really low. And in this low part of the song, there's a lot of information. It's like a fingerprint. So just by recording the songs of that males, these are 6 different males, and the lower part of the frequency range of that 6 animals. And you can see that they're really specific from individual to individual between these 6 birds. And so this would be one way to not only record the species, but also how many are basically at the site. And one other thing that we do now with the help of audiomorph also is to do triangulation. So we have like several audiomorph with GPS connected in the forest. And then when a bird is calling, we exactly know where it's calling, whether there's a second one in a second tree. And this is the second method that we try to establish here, to go over the species detection limit, going to individual level and also reproductive level. And why is that important? It's important because we don't do all these projects just for fun. We do it to get it into policy, to get Nature Protection Agency to get acting. And you only get policymakers to act on the stuff that you're doing when they trust in the systems that you do, and that the answers that you deliver are also fitting what they need for their reports. And a lot of the time we just did research that were not fitting what actually the government officials needed for taking action. And you can't do that alone. Frederick is also in the talk here. He organized one of these meetings. Some of the Austrian bioacoustic people gathered together, trying to figure out what's the best way to go ahead, how to talk to government officials, how to standardize our approaches, how to get from that little Robin side project here to larger scale projects to get action on a larger level. And we can't do that alone. We have to do that as a community, and WILDLABS is a big part of that community, and I'm so happy to have you around. Thanks for your patience, and happy to discuss that later.
Robin, you brought us back on time, but also that was such a beautiful talk, and so cool to hear all the ways that WILDLABS has been able to interject and help in different projects, but also just to see the array of things that you're working on. What's your favorite project of them all? Or one you're most proud of?
That's really hard to say, but I think it's when you're getting older, you're getting sentimental, and so the old times where you just slept in the forest and had lots of time, and enjoyed hours and weeks of time in the forest, that were the best times. But they're gone. Now we have to be productive. We have to code. We have to work on the computer. We have to manage our time. These times are gone. But they're amazing, and I won't miss them. And I think it's really important that people go through that time to then figure out what the machine learning is telling them, because you still need the species in your head to understand the results of the machine learning.
What a profound way to leave us. So thank you so much, Robin. And thank you so much to all of our speakers and to our team as well. And Henry for a kick-ass quiz today. And just all of our community and everyone in the chat saying, just being as incredible as always. These are one of the funnest things that we get to do. So thank you so much for making it just such a pleasure. Bye, everyone.